Gentlemen, we find ourselves on Metropolis, and at the left-hand side of the map we have our Red Terran player from Incredible Miracle, none other than Yoda. His opponent on the right-hand side is our Purple Protoss player from MVP, winner of the last game. It's Vampire, and it's been a very back-and-forth set. We saw IM take a win, then MVP, then IM, then MVP. We'll see if Yoda can start to swing things back in IM's favor, or if MVP Vampire can actually take our first 2-kill of the day.
Would be cool, man. And seeing this map actually reminds me of our tournament on Friday, guys. We have a map maker tournament that's happening. Yeah. We have, I believe, 7 maps in the pool. I'm trying to pick up our 2. I think you're right, yeah. Pick up our 2 for IPL 6. So really excited for that. A lot of awesome maps being made, and actually it sparked a lot of map creation from a lot of the map makers because they see this tournament happening and they're so excited now. They've created 3 or 4 more maps that I'm excited to try out for IPL 7. But cool. Still, guys, if you want to play in it, it's open to play in. I believe there's a Reddit thread that was made. You can search for IPL map tournament, and then from there jump into it. I think we got a nice amount of players. I don't know if I can spoil anyone quite yet, but we got some cool players to be playing.
Why don't you tease one?
We'll do one. All right.
Tease one.
There's this guy named Crank.
Ooh.
He is signed up for it. I'm so excited to see Crank play.
That's a good one. And I want to go ahead and clear up a few things real quick before we jump into the vast majority of this game. People are wondering about format of IPL 6, what's going on. So here's what's happening. At IPL 6, we're going to be running a 40-person Wings of Liberty tournament. That will be, quote-unquote, the main event. Yeah. That's where most of the prize money is going to be. That's what all the qualifiers have been for up to this point, things like that. That's where the players who get into the finalists of IPTL will send 6 players apiece into that bracket. Cool. That's going to be a fun tournament. We're going to have the finals of IPTL there as well. And then on the side, we're also going to have a Heart of the Swarm event. We're going to have an open bracket for that. So we're undecided as to how many places we're going to have. We're coordinating with teams right now just to see, gauge their interest and see exactly how many players they would like to send. That is going to be a sizable prize pool, not quite as big as the main event. And then the open qualifiers are going to feed, along with some online qualifiers, are going to feed into what's likely to be an 8-man championship bracket. So
that's form?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
So that's the idea at the moment. Details not 100% confirmed, but you can likely quote me that that's what we're going to do. So hopefully that clears up some confusion as people have been asking questions in the community.
Kevin, why are you making me work so hard, man? Now I got to study Heart of the Swarm so I can be ready for that.
I do too, dude. I'm on the same page as you. I understand.
Well, you have a golden voice, so you can make mistakes and it's okay. I gotta be smart, man. I gotta make things happen. Oh well, we'll see if we can. I'm ready for it. I mean, IPL 6 is gonna be huge. We're gonna have so many events going on. It's gonna be a fun-packed weekend. Again, I'm excited to see everyone there. Just make sure you come say hi to us. But now into the game. Looks like we have a pretty nice opening here from Yoda. Did he go Rax to do Command Center? It certainly does look like it here. And do we have Vampire? He's actually only on 1 gas. So
right. So like traditional 1-gate expand for him. He was denied a scout though, so even though it wasn't, we know it's a 1-Rax gasless fast expand. The Command Center was built inside of the base, and the second supply depot was built that prevented Vampire from being able to pull away from gas and go for that Nexus a little bit earlier on. In fact, he had to stay a little bit safer and was forced to produce a Stalker before that Nexus ever came up.
Alrighty, so this is one of those maps, man, where we get to mid-late game. We have a lot of fun engagements, and most of the time you're going to go to super late game. So actually kind of hoping we see that. I know Yoda's really strong in the late game. He rarely makes mistakes. He did actually have a small mistake when he played an IEM against Zake, where Zake was just on fire, though, so you can't really blame him. But other than that, he loves getting into the late game and playing pretty solid and just straight up beating his opponents.
Well, it's been a while actually on the stream since we've had just like a good solid 40-minute game or something like that too. So would be fun to see. Second orbital commands just finishing up now. Vampire actually going with 2nd and 3rd gates a little bit earlier than normal at about the 28-29 supply. So he still thinks there's something up right now. He still thinks he's got to get units out in order to defend. Whether that's the case, we'll find out. 3 racks pressure, though, could certainly be a possibility from Yoda, but this is nothing out of the ordinary. He's done a good job of tricking his opponent into thinking that there's more aggression than there actually is.
And it all comes down to the 9, that first scout. Really just, that will make a Protoss player be so scared. He's actually falling up to Observer here. It looks like he actually has the rally points into the natural, which kind of makes me think he might go for an Immortal first, rather than having sent his opponent's main. If it was in the main, he'd go for an Observer. So watch out for that. He actually is playing a little bit on the fearful side here. Vampire is really good at the PvPs. He knows the matchup pretty well, but his PvPs is a little bit on the lackluster side, as mentioned by Kevin earlier.
Well, let's see here. As Yoda actually decided to go away from the upgrade route, yes, he's going to have +1, yes, he's going to have stim, but he's actually foregoing +1 in order to get that done. So he's going to have his, not starting that engineering bay right away. He's actually going to have medevacs a bit earlier on. So we'll see what he ends up going with here in just a bit. But Starport's going to be hitting pretty quickly in this game. You should be able to hit like that good 9.5 minute 2 medevac timing attack if you wanted to.
Alrighty, so at this point we need to see Zelda out of control. It would be a little bit nice with the player really moving out to go that route. We have, oh, there we go. Finally, Yoda's starting to move out. What's he moving out with? It looks like a couple Marines. There is a Marauder in the composition here. A lot of Marines. So, yeah, a lot of Marines actually. Really wanting to hammer out a lot of DPS. Has he gotten concussive shells? Did we see that upgrade?
No, I don't believe he has. Just stim.
Yeah, so that's just meant to pop out on some stalkers, but he's really expecting his opponent just not to have very many units out, just wants to barrel through them really quickly. And he's actually gone very heavy on sentry here, so we'll see how that goes for him.
Yeah, so Twilight Council's finishing up along with his first forge, so he's wanting a little bit more mobility out of his units, because obviously that's not timing with an upgrade finishing up, so very interesting stuff. I mean, Vampire has kind of this feels like a very reactive build to him. This feels very, I think there's pressure, I think there's pressure, I think there's pressure. Wait a second, you haven't done anything yet. I'm looking around your base and you've got pretty normal stuff going on. So I like, though, of course, the double forge builds are very cool, Creator Prime style, playing towards that later game. Very awesome stuff, don't get me wrong. But I really do like the single forge earlier mobility builds that pop out too. It offers you some flexibility as a Protoss player.
Well, to go double forge, you gotta be really confident. You have to have a lot of map control. And Vampire the whole time is literally just sitting back. He really seems scared to move out. And finally getting observers on the field here. I think he has one more as well that's scouting around. There it is, yeah. So he saw that Marine Marauder poke out a little bit, and he just went, okay, I'm just going to go with one forge here. I'm going to get Blink. I'm going to get all my abilities here to be able to snipe medevacs if he retreats. But other than that, I'm going to sit at this natural and force engagements to happen between these rocks so I can get good force fields.
Yeah, he's doing a good job of it too, and he's taking up behind it. Obviously, we're seeing a fourth gateway. We're seeing the robotics bay about to finish up too, so we'll be able to move into Colossus production. But this is a nice timing from Yoda.
It's wrong.
His +1 hasn't finished, so he's a little off in that regard. It's still 20 seconds before that actually finishes up, so he may wait for that. I'm not sure. But if he attacks before that first Colossus hits, he's in a great spot because it's before Blink, it's before +1, and it's before a Colossus.
All right, well, here we go. The Observer does see the whole entire army composition available here for Yoda. The factory moving forward to get that scouting information available. Does see a hefty amount of stalkers. And Yoda, again, wants to wait for that combat shield for engages. I really don't want the engagement to happen, actually.
No, not anymore. Had he actually gone before his +1, he would have crushed his opponent. He would have destroyed Vampire right there. The game probably would have been over. But that's just lack of information on his part. It's not necessarily his fault or anything. He just didn't know. Now, Vampire, all of a sudden, has a Colossus +1 and Blink. This makes this engagement a completely different story, and he has 6 gates available to him, too.
Well, behind this, Yoda's getting a third, so this is just feigted pressure. Hey, look, I'm gonna hurt you. I'm gonna do some kind of damage. Warping units, stop making probes. Oh wait, I'm expanding behind this. Haha, now I have an advantage in economy. So moving into Vikings right away. He did see that one Colossus as well. So Yoda playing this very smart, just moving in transitions, just I guess reacting to his opponent. And looks like Vampire will be doing the same, moving into his own third. This is what this map allows for you to do. Move into your third. After you get your third established, you have fourth and fifth bases available to you so easily.
No range on the way for these Colossi quite yet, though, which is a little bit interesting. Vampire will need to invest in that pretty soon. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Yoda wanted to go for some pressure if he felt like there was any sort of weakness out of his opponent. He just really didn't have the opportunity to do so, or didn't feel like he had the opportunity to. I mean, because that was a really nice timing that was available to him, especially with what he had forced his opponent into, being very reactive, worried about pressure himself. So, fortunately, it doesn't really end up working out in the end. Double gas following up with a pylon here at this third base, and shouldn't be too difficult for Vampire to move over and defend that. So, we are actually just going to draw out for a little bit longer and move in towards the late game.
Yeah, which Vampire is happy to do. Okay, I survived the first 10-12 minutes of Terran. I should be okay, actually, as I move up into my upgrades. He's starting to pop up on a second forge, moving into Templar Archives as well. Mixing a couple of Immortals in there, which I really don't like, because getting into mid-late game,
I agree.
Immortals are just, they're useless against Terran. Way too much DPS. I'd rather have Colossus production on the way.
He did finish charging a Storm, though, so this is almost a weird version of, sometimes you see Protoss players produce one Colossus, get their opponent to make a bunch of Vikings, swap into Charge-Led Archon right afterwards. This is the 2 Colossus version of that, though, which doesn't seem as good to me. And I understand the Immortals, if you were only producing the 1 Colossus, just to be able to knock out Marauders, but it seems very weird doing that before you've invested in Storm and before your charge is done.
Alright, so scan does happen here for Yoda. He sees the Colossus all the way pulled back. He's going to engage on these Stalkers right away. Stalkers are going to blink away right at the moment, and that's good for him here. He needs to be careful that the Vikings are pursuing these Colossi. Oh, blinking forward. Ooh, gets the Viking. Man, you gotta have guts to do that.
No kidding. Viking for Stalker, though, was a pretty good trade, but unfortunately, this third base is under attack, and Vampire has to be able to react to this pretty soon, because that's going to fall very quickly, and he just lets it die.
Boom. Yep. He couldn't defend it. He has no thermal lance, as mentioned, so he can't move the Colossus down there without risking him being killed off immediately from the Vikings. And then a flank. Look how many units here. Oh my god, Yoda's macro is so good.
Yeah.
So good right now. He's kind of Bomber-esque right now. He has tons of units just flying across the middle of the map. He's got his third setup. Wow, I didn't realize how good he was macroing.
He would actually be max at the 15-minute mark if he wasn't supply blocked right now. So I just want to put that in perspective. He is a little bit supply blocked, but otherwise he'd be maxed with a 2-2 army at 15 minutes and all 3 tech options available to him in the late game Terran army. That's gross.
You can go the bogus route and just bring down an extra supply. Call it down. Poor Bogus, always messing up. Innovation, actually, is his name here.
Well, yeah.
Circuit 2, but that's who I'm talking about, guys. Moving up in upgrades, though, 2-2 on the way here. Following up into the Vikings weapons as well. So, going to follow up into 3 more racks. At this point, a 4th command center would be ideal. It's going to have SCVs be able to pull off the line. This is the point where you see players like Gumi start to bring SCVs off because they have so many orbitals down.
Now, there is one problem with what Yoda's doing right now. His macro was great. He has a ton of units out there, but he's got to use them at some point because sometimes Terran players get caught in, I've macroed really well, I've got all these units available to me, and I don't attack. And as soon as you don't do that, the Protoss player is going to put higher quality units on the field than you can. Late game Terran armies don't have this many Marines available to them. They're usually a little bit higher in Viking count. You've got some Ghosts mixed in. Even though there's going to be a couple of Ghosts, a couple of Medevacs here, it's not like a traditional late game Terran army. There's way too many Marines here. So if he waits, all of a sudden we're going to have a ton of AoE from the Protoss player, and he's going to be able to dispatch of that pretty quickly.
Yeah, I agree with you completely. And I think the reason why Yoda didn't do the aggression is I would like Medevac drops. It's actually really nice in this map because the third, fourth base makes you spread out so much as a Protoss player. Unfortunately, since he saw that Colossus early, and he switched into so many Vikings, he's afraid to lose Medevacs, and that really stifles you from trying to do any aggression. But again, I agree. I really feel like he needs to do something. Popping into the main with a couple units would have been great, and I actually think he has some Medevacs down here in the bottom right corner, finally going for the aggression. But it might be a little bit on the too late side. We'll see if Vampire will respond accordingly.
Yeah, he needs to trade some units now and start getting some bang for his buck out of these. Otherwise, they're going to lose effectiveness as we go along. Of course, there was the beginning of the engagement. A lot of storms put out for not a lot of damage. They did zone the forces out, and I thought that was going to be his cue to go with Medevacs, but he looks like he's waiting. Still no defenses prepared, so this could still do a lot of damage.
Look at all those gateways on the way. Vampire's about to get to a point where that 3 to 4 base Protoss starts popping out so many units, and him getting in here and actually sniping some of these gateways would be great. Probes would be nice, but Cybernetic Core is actually more important here. Snipe that, you have no Stalkers, Sentries, I guess, if your opponent wants to go that route as well. But he's kind of just letting him A-move everything.
Yeah, I mean, not a lot of focus here. It looks like he's more worried about trying to get an engagement at the front. Does drop down nice EMPs. Oh, wow, you know, the storms actually got off before the second EMP had actually hit most of those, though. So he captured the first Templar, but I forget that the range is so small in EMPs now. That didn't actually hit the ones at the back, so my apologies. A little bit of a mistake there. And this army is going to be driven off, and it's taken care of inside of the main while not killing a Cybernetics core.
Yeah, Vampire actually just worked in a couple of Zealots and let them deal with the Marines and Marauders. I don't think they were actually simmed again either. Yoda was just too busy in the middle of the map to pay attention to his drop that happened there. He missed out on so much extra damage, but again, you kind of have to pay attention to your main army. You lose that, and you lose straight up, so I don't know, maybe pull back a little bit after those first storms do happen, jump to your Medevacs, make sure the aggression is happening, and then go back to paying attention to your army, but still...
All of a sudden, Vampire's right back in this, though.
He's doing really good now.
So, because he's on 4 base, he's got really nice upgrades going. He's about to finish +2 weapons as well. He hasn't taken that much economic damage. His production looks really nice. His unit quality is really fantastic. And importantly, too, look at that engagement. Look at the lack of focus fire here. You have a lot of injured Colossi. None of them fell. One survived, of course, with 2 hit points, and that's, you know, very frustrating to deal with. But keeping all 4 Colossi alive and being able to not use your... not having to use your money into reproducing those, but being able to use it to continue your tech pass out is just really strong for a Protoss player.
Well, we're getting to the late game TVP. Yoda is transitioning nicely here, moving into a lot of Ghosts. Ghost has kind of just been the late game norm now. It allows you to trade a little bit more efficiently if you land some nice EMPs. Makes this Colossus way weaker for your Vikings to kill off very quickly as well. So look for him to keep moving up in those upgrades for his Vikings, as well as just getting out a nice amount of Ghosts. They are so strong late game. And again, still makes it still cost efficient to trade with Bioforces. So keep an eye on those. And looking at Vampire, man, he seems timid to move out. He hasn't really moved farther than half across the middle of the map. You see these little drops here and there, and he pulls back so many units to deal with them, and you just got to go for it sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, because we're getting past the point where the effectiveness of his army was there for him. This is actually pretty good for him, though. He gets good positioning with the Vikings and all of the Stalkers, and the splash damage hasn't caught up yet. He's actually going to pick off a second Colossus. That was great for Yoda. So every bad thing that had happened to him was a little bit made up by just picking off those 2 Colossi, and that's going to force Vampire to maybe rethink this attack for a little while.
Well, he's still moving forward. He thinks, okay, I just lost 2 Colossus. I actually need to do some kind of damage. He's actually maybe freaking out a little bit too much here. Medevacs again on their way. Yoda's being a little bit more active with those Medevacs, so got to enjoy that. We'll come down to this 4th base right away. And with the High Templars here to zone out this Bio Force, it forces him to pull back a little bit here. But he's actually going to catch the Colossus as they're pulling away.
Planetary Fortress did end up falling, though, but a lot of Zealots are going to die as they retreat, so the army for Vampire was just ravaged with that engagement. We got to find out if killing a base was worth it, because he's actually taking damage at the same time. Cybernetics Core did actually fall this time, and all those Marauders in a really nice spot to deal with these Zealots.
Well, it looks like Yoda is moving across the middle of the map, trying to catch these Zealots right away. Wants to catch his Colossus if he can as well. It looks like he actually did catch it with a stim here.
Oh, he did actually just eat a big storm.
Oh my gosh, there's so much damage. It's kind of a lack of medevacs there, showing why switching the Vikings can be quite hurtful going into the game if you don't pay attention.
Yeah.
These Zealots finally going to deal with these Marauders. No, they're actually just in a huge choke here and can't even get any damage. And Colossus does finally pop out.
How often do you see Marauders that cost-effective against Zealots, though?
Never. Except early game when they have custom shells and they're cheap. We do have the medevacs being dealt with as well. In the top left corner at the same time, there is a pretty decent engagement, as it looks like they will kill off a couple of pylons. But again, this is kind of a weird game. Very scrappy on different fronts. A lot of mistakes happening for both players.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. Both players have had opportunities to get things done. Vampire did a really nice job initially with being able to survive after taking that much damage and being set that far behind and losing his 3rd base early on. Wow, they are suiciding to take down this Colossus. If they don't get it, that is a huge waste of Vikings, and every single one of those falls.
TT. Oh no. Ghosts are getting sniped in there pretty quickly, trying to snipe some units here. Another storm lands as well. Vampire has been getting some pretty nice storms off, though. That's been one thing that we could really attribute to him in this game. The upgrades are all starting to finish up for all our players. We have, I believe, 3-3 for our Protoss player. 3-2-3. Dang. Yeah. We got 3-3 here for the Bio Forces as well, and the Vikings are about to have 3+3 attack as well. So this is where we get to those late games where both players are really are scared to engage because they don't want to lose their army so darn fast. But
neither player can kill each other, though, too.
It's painful with the Ghost being out. There being a lot of EMPs available. It's so scary for a Protoss player to push out. You got to spread out, but then you spread out, Vikings suddenly catch up to Colossi.
And Yoda actually just whiffed on an EMP, and that was the last of the energy that was available on these Ghosts. This engagement does work out fairly well for Vampire. He actually kills all the Ghosts at the front. I'm surprised that all those were sacrificed. And Storm's actually hitting pretty decently on the units. They snag a few Zealots at the end, too, but that's still enough to start forcing this army back. 2 stims in, and this is going to look very, very difficult for Yoda as we move on.
Oh, the medevac count is so low here. Vikings popping out. Yeah, it looks like the Colossus will die off once you kill off the Zealots, and Vampire. Oh, Yoda doing the Manor Mules. He does that all the time.
Wow. Okay, so an incredible amount of confidence coming out of him here. But the splash damage is still very good, despite the fact that these Colossi have been weakened, and Yoda gets moved back, and we're about even on supply again. The Vampire has to take another base very soon, but once again, Yoda with some preemptive Manor Mules.
We were talking about that earlier. That's what he does. He does preemptive mules, and then he loses the game. He's done it time after time again. Yoda, don't fall into a rut, man. Do what you do, except not do it. Don't drop any mules, man, and just play the game out. You'll be fine. Because that's his form of GG. That means he's quitting out for some reason. The 4th base is still fine for Vampire in the very far top left corner. I would like to have a 5th base built for him. That natural and 3rd is starting to get very, very low, but he is switching into Archons now, which
thank God.
Taking is very nice here. For them to be in the front, and they really take a lot of damage. Allow your Stalkers to pop in. Just got to be careful for those EMPs. And Yoda has been losing his Ghost pretty badly here, so Archon could be a good choice.
Weird things going on, though. I'd love to see another base coming up, but yes, thank you. He's putting together some Archons on the field because he had 1 million gas available to him, and he was actually at 3K just 2 minutes ago. So good thing he has all that. He's still at 1,300, but he's just given himself an additional 9 Ghosts, or 9 Archons, I believe. So.
Oh. The +3 Plasma Shields are about to finish up, so 3-3-3 will be your upgrades for our Protoss player. Just booming in upgrades. and always SCV stuck down here in the bottom right corner, just mining away. We might actually get to a point where we mine out the map here, and I mean mine out because no one can take middle bases or they'll just die.
Vampire, take this base, please,
man,
for the love of God.
It's yo's. Do it, man.
Make a few more probes, too, or at least pull yours off of gas for a little while. But I guess he did a pretty effective job of using up his gas there on the 10 Archons that he now has in this army.
Yeah, he's really aiming for just a really big army supply here and trying to prevent EMPs from landing on him. Landing some nice storms, spreading can help out as well. And just killing with having a better army supply than Yoda, because Yoda actually hasn't sacrificed too many SCVs. Normally at this point you go that route, even into orbitals, and he actually has some down in the bottom right corner. Actually, how many does he have in terms of units? Can we check out the SCVs? 61. You actually will drop down to about 45, 40, believe it or not, coming into super late game, and just use your orbitals to keep up with mules, but it looks like Yoda's a little bit afraid to do that quite yet.
Well, he'll be very happy to pull some off the line and defend if this army ends up coming to bear as well. So, very interesting. The command center that's out in the middle is not one planetary fortress, it's just an orbital command sitting in the way and being used for mules. Could have certainly done that back at a base and use a planetary in the stead there. But Vampire has a very strong maxed out army. Yoda has a very strong maxed out army. In fact, both of our players, we're looking at 14 Ghosts, 40 Marines, 18 Marauders, 11 Vikings, just 4 medevacs, and 2 of them are up here in this drop. So if that gets picked up on, that could be very devastating for Yoda.
Vampire's pulling his whole army back to deal with this. He brought the Stalkers back first, but he has to pull back the rest of the army too, because if he leaves them there could be a chance that Yoda stems and comes and kills them.
Yeah.
Stalkers do make their way finally back, but if he actually snipes these medevacs, it would be really huge for him. He's actually doing some decent micro, but the Marauders really tearing through these Stalkers here. Finally, a massive amount of Stalkers do finally pop up, and he will deal with it. Get the medevacs, it's so important. Get them.
Yeah, get him. Hopefully he gets up there quick, because it looks like he's a little more worried about zoning out this army down here at the bottom of the map. Does pick off the medevacs. Everything's dead there.
All right, so Vampire did well there, killing off those medevacs. So important, because now, what would you say? There's 2 medevacs left now. 3 are on the way for Yoda, so he will move up into 5, but still, that medevac count is so important in engagement. SCV's finally being sacrificed here, it looks like, for Yoda, so he can start moving into those mules that are so important in the late game.
I don't want to say anything, but we called it at the beginning. A nice long game here for us on Metropolis.
We're the best commentators in all of IPL, plus Kibbles.
That's oh wow!
We're top 3. We're top 3.
I think Andrew just jumped off a bridge. Well done. Anyway, so top 3 commentator IPL.
That's right.
Anyways, this is a very strong army, although not a lot of zealots here, so the tankiness is cool, but it's very susceptible to a large ghost count, and there are 14 out there, so well-placed EMPs are going to be able to deal with those Archons very effectively. I really don't know who's going to win this, though. There's a large bank of resources available to Vampire, even without this base, so he's going to be able to replenish this army with very high-quality units very quickly. 4 more gateways popping down, too. That's going to give him a total of, even with the ones he lost before, 15. So he'll be able to reproduce this army very, very quickly.
Yoda needs to exploit the true OP-ness of Terran. Needs to get a medevac. Oh, is he doing it in the top left corner? Is he going for the island expansion? Okay, he wins. He has exploited why Terran is so OP here. He's going to be able to get a command center floated up there, take that island, and bam, game over. Well, if he wants to scan and do it.
Yeah, fusion core. I'm sorry, just
battle cruisers.
Yes,
let's do it. Get some nukes up in here. Let's go crazy, man. Let's go. Let's get a mothership. Come on, let's go for it, Yoda.
All right, well,
Vampire.
It is Metropolis, and we're already 32 minutes in, and there's no clear winner for this. So buckle your seatbelts, because we're here for another hour. And there, ghosts are indeed popping up, or I'm sorry, I should say battle cruisers and nukes on the way now. We're down to 44 SCVs, almost exactly the amount we said before, because you do want to be able to sacrifice those. Man, that medevac was so close to dying. It would have been so nice for Vampire, but unfortunately, there's a decent amount of probes here.
Yeah, we actually have Vampire completely maxed out. Only the 197 supply, so he can't really warp anything in to help deal with this. So these probes are just dying left and right. Stalkers finally do get here, but he needs to put an observer in the top left corner. This is the 3rd time they've had a medevac drop come here and do a decent amount of damage. He needs to be a little bit more active in holding that off. But, yep, now we have nukes in the way, and I don't even care, man, if I miss my bus home, because we're going to have nukes in a PVT. So exciting. And
look at this. He's actually, well, he is dropping inside of the main, I want to point out. Nice job. He's going to pick up the cybernetics core here very quickly. A small group of Stim Marines and Marauders going to be able to deal with that very effectively. And he's going to place 2 island expansions. Yes, 2.
That's double the OP-ness, man.
Yeah,
double the fun. So Marauders still doing whatever they can here in this bottom right corner. Snipe off the medevac, please. Do it. Bam, there it goes. And now deal with the Marauders and Marines. Even complete forward. So confident. So manly, Vampire. We'll clean that up. So now we're just going to have a point where he's floating around the middle of the map here. Medevacs flying out once again. And I like Yoda constantly doing this aggression here. If he just kills enough probes and he crushes his army in the middle of the map with some nice EMPs and then just a huge step forward and battle cruisers. And
5. I want to point out 5 battle cruisers. Oh, he just made 2 more. We're going to have 7.
He's going to have Yamato cannon as well.
Yes.
So cool, man.
Behemoth reactor well on the way. Now he's got both those island expansions. Vampire's just sitting on this 5th one here at the top left-hand corner. Now, of course, he just started it, so it's actually going to be a long time before he gets starved out or mined out of that base, so that's not too bad for him, but the influx of resources from Yoda is going to be staggering, and he's going to be able to produce off of a fairly large number of barracks, but I'm actually surprised he didn't just spam down like 10 more, just because he can really take advantage of those at the end of this game.
Well, he's moving in a Dark Shrine as well, so Dark Templars will become part of the game. Unfortunately for him, Yoda has a ton of scans available because he has so many orbitals, but there also comes to the point where you need units to actually deal when that scan does happen. So Vampire can make some plays here, sacrificing more SCVs, getting down to that lower 30-20. I would even go down to 0, man.
Yeah.
Do it. Well, keep about 12-15 for your gas.
We need gas, yeah, that's what I was about to say.
Oh, drop again in the top left corner. He did snipe that Nexus, actually.
Oh, wow.
So, bam, that is gone. Vampire, again, needs an observer in that top left corner. He has photon cannons, but I believe he actually has upgrades for his medevac as well.
Yeah, they've cut a path through the photon cannons, though, at this point. So, or he needs some behind the mineral line, at the very least. But double drop doing damage, and 7 battle cruisers are done. 3 more are on the way. We're actually going to have 10 battle cruisers here in a second. So, tweet at everyone right now and tell them to watch the end of this game, because it's going to be ridiculous.
Just put battle cruisers across the whole entire thing. All characters. Gonna go ahead and turn it up like a man here. And really, in all honesty, you get to a point where it's really hard for you to actually drop into that. With War Prism, that's the only real route you can get into that base.
I don't really understand, though, because he actually sacrificed SCVs and rebuilt SCVs. Does he not have any medevacs right now? Why didn't he just drop 8 SCVs off to the side rather than sacrificing them and restarting
them? Too much APM, man. That's too much APM.
Oh,
you're talking crazy over here, okay?
All right, I'm sorry, but just a thought. Anyway, photon cannons, really nice front that Vampire has here. It's going to be difficult for Yoda to engage into that. Where are all those battle cruisers? Where are those man mode battle cruisers? There they are.
There they are, man. At this point, if I was Vampire, I would literally just take a line of photon cannons here in the middle of the map and just have them like section off that whole entire area. More photon cannons than he has actually already, and then expand at his top left. He has grabbed that middle base in the bottom right corner. Yoda is aware of it because of Sensory Tower.
Yeah.
But it's still there, and it's kind of hard to go kill that off because you might put your army in a bad position in a choke. But Archon's killing off the SCVs.
Aww.
This game is ridiculous. This is a crazy point where we have so many upgrades, we have so much of a big army out that literally you can't move out, or you might potentially die. There are nukes available for Yoda as well, so Vampire has to be very careful here. I don't even know how to commentate this in game because I haven't seen a game get this crazy this far in a late game and since I play him daily.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Yeah, I mean, this is a major tournament too. I mean, this is a tournament with over $20,000 in prizes on the line. So switching out SCVs is unfortunately going to slip into the night.
Get the dance on.
And there's no end in sight. I mean, this is largely going to come down to one engagement. Let's be honest. But the bank is there for both our players to be able to reproduce their armies fairly efficiently. Vampire now finally putting up a Stargate. I don't know if he's actually caught wind of these battle cruisers yet. What has he seen from his opponents? Really nothing since the beginning of this game. He has absolutely no idea what's going on.
Well, Stargate play. Oh, there comes the War Prism.
Yeah, there went the War Prism.
Now he goes, oh snap.
Yes.
I can't get in there. There's no way. Moving into the Stargate, as mentioned, we'd like to see a few more. Is he going to go ahead and grab a fleet beacon after getting that Stargate?
He better. I mean, at some point.
I really think a mothership would be really key at this point. Oh, he could actually... Oh my gosh, is the mothership tanky enough to where he could move in and recall into that planetary fortress down there in the bottom right corner on the island base? That would be really cool, but battle cruisers, man, look at those lights all lighting up. Viking Sky Terran is here, guys.
Yeah, 13 battlecruisers, by the way. 13 battlecruisers, 14 ghosts, 12 Vikings, full upgrades for all of those. Now, the problem is, though, of course, is that if Vampire moves into his air tech, he's severely behind in upgrades. Not starting anything from the cybernetics course, so it's going to be a while for him to be able to catch up in that regard. Although we are at full stalemate at the moment, so, he may have that opportunity, I suppose. It looks like he's leaving the supply available, though, eventually. Well, he needs to sacrifice 2 more units for a mothership, but a mothership is actually going to provide some utility in this army.
Yeah, he's actually doing it right now. He has a couple units going down that natural for him. I believe that's actually a couple of probes. Yeah, there we go. So planetary fortress will dispatch those, and now we will have a mothership falling in. Oh gosh, we're having an engagement now. The Archon's moving forward right away. The battle cruisers are actually in the front, but they are just tearing through this front line here of Vampires. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's the power of the Battlecruiser. They have taken a lot of damage, though I will say Storm's actually doing a nice job of zoning out the forces on the ground. But look at the supply difference between our two players. Almost nothing has been warped in yet for Vampire, but all those forces clump up, and he's actually able to deal out a lot of AoE to these Battlecruisers, which are now all in the red.
They're just sitting there in the Storm taking so much damage, and he's falling up to the 10 gateways. Tons of units to be falling out. Yoda says, get out of my game, here are some mana meals, but he isn't aware of the follow-up here available for Vampire. He didn't even start with Mothership. He's also just going to go ahead and follow up straight into gateway units here. Tons of Zealots right away. A nice amount of Stalkers, getting more High Templars. We'd like to see some more Archons. The Archons really allow that engagement to happen.
That's right.
They take so much damage, and they got in on top of those Battlecruisers. And they are pretty weak, and we need some SCVs to repair these. These are actually really important for Yoda.
I think he had called down some mules, and actually for the first time in his life, not the Manor Mule variety. And oh no! All the Templar are sniped out. They can't do any damage. The Battlecruisers are able to deal with this space very effectively. And ladies and gentlemen, those I think are Manor Mules. Yeah. I think Yoda's pretty confident in his victory. Now Vampire's down to just 50 supply, so it took a while to happen, and it did come down to just one engagement, but it looks like IM is going to take this game.
Yeah, certainly. He is fallen so low in minerals here, only 300. He does not have mules of it, unfortunately, so he can't follow up into mining. He's actually kind of getting very low on resources in his fourth and fifth base, if you would call that now. They're essentially his main and natural, because where all the minerals are. And there we go, GG finally. Yoda with Battlecruisers crushing that army.
Yeah.
So strong.
Well, that was a game. That was a game of StarCraft 2, as presented to you by the IGNProLeague.
Very alive.
Don't really have any other words for it, to be honest, but it was very interesting. But coming up next, remember how I mentioned before we were kind of just rotating through the races?
Yeah.
Well, coming up next for MVP is a veritable monster. Ooh. It is, in fact, Monster. So it's going to be a TVZ, and we're going to see what Yoda can do.
All right, man, let's go ahead and kick it away, guys. No more explosions during the commercial break. We'll have explosions in the next game. We'll be right back.